This unit has several sort of sections. So what we're going to start off with is we're going to talk a little bit about the characteristics of life. So what are the things that living organisms have in common? And we'll talk a little bit about a concept called spontaneous generation. You guys are the worst. So, we're talking about spontaneous generation. We're going to talk a little bit about evolution. So let's start with, there's a little vocabulary here that you can refer back to. So here we have some living things. Any know what that is? I'll give you a hint. It's not Santa Claus.
It's a bird.
We're going to learn about this gentleman.
It's a pirate.
It's Charles Darwin.
It's a pirate.
This is a tree, an amoeba, finches, giraffe, whale, all of which are alive.
Wait, what was the third one?
That's an amoeba. It's a single-celled living thing. It's a protist, okay? And it has all these characteristics of living things. So, you know, when you guys tell me certain things that you were mentioning earlier, things like has a pulse or some of these objects obviously are alive, others are not. Is a rock alive? No. Rocks are not alive. They don't grow. They're not made of cells. They don't require any materials or water. They don't use energy. They're inanimate objects. How about a tree? Yeah, so when you guys start talking about having a pulse or moving when you poke it, you're really excluding plants from that definition. So, yeah, plants are alive. How about a light bulb? Alive? No. But when you think about it, it does use energy. So if that's an important part of our definition, we have to think about that. How about a caterpillar? Flower? Little tiny horse, since it's the same size as a cat.
Pony.
Pony? Did anyone go to the state fair and pay any money to see like the world's smallest horse in that little booth there?
Oh, yeah.
Is it really tiny?
Sort of. What is it though?
I don't know. It's just a little horse, a little tiny pony. I guess.
It's like the size of the chair.
I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't pay. I'm too cheap to pay money to see a little tiny horse. All right.
I like going to booths.
Mittens. This is one of Mr. Our Curious Cat's mittens. Alive? Yeah. A ring? Obviously not. Snowman? Only Frosty. So some of these objects are alive, some are not. Some have certain characteristics, some don't, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So all living things have what we're going to say 6 characteristics that all living things must have. All living things are made of cells. This is a key one. Kai mentioned it in our question of the day. That cells, we'll talk about in more detail, are what make up all living things. In fact, our next unit, we're going to talk all about cells and the parts of cells and so forth. So all living things are made of cells. All living things use some form of energy. All living things grow. Living things respond to their environment or respond to internal conditions. All living things, living species are capable of reproduction. And finally, all living organisms are adapted to their environment. So we call these 6 things the characteristics of life. We're going to talk about each one in a little bit more detail in the next few slides. So cells. Has anyone ever seen cells before?
No,
Why not?
because they're like super duper small.
Well, they're not just inside, they're the outside of your body also. They are visible, but they are, Casey, microscopic. But you can see cells through the microscope. In fact, you will be looking at your own cells eventually. Here are some cells. These are cells from an onion. Okay? And each of these little boxes is a single cell from that onion plant. Cells are the basic unit of life. Anything that is alive is made of these small units called cells. Hello? Okay. Hello? Hey. Good, how are you? Yes. Oh, no, I haven't seen anyone.
Hello, YouTube, if this thing is on. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, yeah.
I know, but they're joking on plastic.
Sure. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So mostly cells are tiny and microscopic, and that's why we generally haven't seen them very often, but we can see cells looking through the microscope. And some living things are made of trillions of cells, like you and I. But there are some organisms that are alive that are made of just a single individual cell. Things like a bacteria, things like that amoeba that I showed you on our first slide. Those are living, but they're composed of just a single cell. So all living things are made of cells. That's one important characteristic. All living things also need a source of energy. Energy keeps things alive. Without energy, living things can no longer be alive. So where do you get energy? Mia?
From like vitamins, like isn't it like you can get vitamin D from like
Yeah, but technically vitamins don't give you energy. Vitamins give you important things your body needs to function, but not energy. Natalie? Sleep does not give you energy either, actually. Alex? Food is what gives us energy. The foods that we consume, our bodies break down and extract energy out of them. Okay? Well, what about something like these plants back here, these cactus? They're not going to feed them anything. They don't eat. But they are alive. They do need energy to stay alive. Where do they get energy? Miranda? The sun. There's a term for organisms that can use the sun's energy directly. They're called autotrophs. They get their energy from the sun. And usually we think of plants in this category. There are some other organisms which are autotrophs, some protists, some bacteria, but for our purposes, we're going to think about plants when we think of autotrophs. They don't need to eat anything. They get their energy from the sun. Heterotrophs, on the other hand, they cannot make their own food like plants can. They need to eat and consume other organisms in order to get their energy. So we are all heterotrophs. For us to obtain energy, we have to eat other organisms. So obviously this deer is a heterotroph. These eat plants. Right? These this lion is a heterotroph. It's eating other animals. Even things like a mushroom. What does a mushroom eat? It?
Like bacteria?
No, not bacteria. Avery? What? No? Hi?
Decaying things.
Yeah, it eats sort of dead and decaying organic matter. Like that, if you see a mushroom growing out of the ground, out in that area there is some dead wood or something that mushroom is decomposing. It's breaking down and obtaining nutrients from it. Okay, so all living things are made of cells. All living things obtain energy in some way. Living things also grow. And growing just means an increase in size over time. Now this is obvious in certain, in humans. We've grown from a little baby into a young adult and will continue to grow. We know plants grow. Even small single-celled organisms grow from a tiny cell into a larger cell. Here we have a plant growing from a seed. What do we call that process? Seeds do, what do we have a term for that? Emily? What? No? Aiden?
Germinate?
Germinate. The seed has germinated. It started to grow. Okay? Pictures of Mr. Carey going from baby to adult. Okay? Some living things actually also develop over time and change their form. Like a frog going from a tadpole to a frog, or a caterpillar to a butterfly. It's another form of growth that we call development. This may be slightly different than you have. We've changed this around a few times. Response. Living things respond to changes. Response means they react to what we call stimuli. So stimulus is some change. It may happen outside of the body, it may happen inside of the body. So for example, stimulus, something comes flying towards your face, random. The stimulus is that an object is coming towards you, and what is one's response?
To block it?
Or to cower away, to block it, to flinch. Those would be responses to a stimulus. Okay? Sometimes that stimulus happens internally. So find an area, I guess maybe at the bottom of your slide where you might be able to fit this. Because there's 2 bullets here and there's a lot to write. So we have this term, and this is an important term, homeostasis. It's a term you're going to see a lot and hear a lot. Have you heard that word before? Has anybody heard the term homeostasis? Okay. Homeostasis means keeping conditions stable inside of our bodies. Our bodies are constantly adjusting to conditions as they change. We'll talk about it in a minute. Another way of saying is keeping conditions constant. Keeping the proper balance inside of our body. And so if we think about some examples of homeostasis and response. If our body temperature internally starts to drop, how does our body respond? What do you do if your body temperature started to, what's our typical body temperature? Supposed to be around 98.6. If our body temperature starts to go down to 98, that's a stimulus, an internal stimulus, and our body responds to maintain homeostasis. What happens to us? Right? You shiver. If your body temperature starts to drop, you start to shiver. What is shivering?
Like,
Yeah. What's happening is your muscles are contracting and relaxing very quickly, and that actually generates some heat and brings your body temperature back up. Well, what happens if your body temperature starts to rise and your body temperature is going above 98.6? Lindsay? You sweat. Sweat is drops of perspiration form on your skin. When they evaporate, they actually cool you down. And that helps to bring your body temperature back down. So this is your body responding to changes. And there's other, a couple other examples. When your body temperature drops, you also have behavioral changes. Like if at night, let's say your parents refuse to turn on the heat because it's only the end of September, and your room is really cold, okay? And you go to sleep at night. What position do you take in that? So you have your blankets on you. What position does your body like naturally take when it's cold? You're just like huddled up. What are you trying to do? Keep all your body like nice and close and inside of you. Okay? What about your parents, you don't have any air conditioning, and you live up on the second floor in your bedroom, and it's super hot all summer. How do you sleep? Emily? Without any covers, in what position? Just like spread out, because what you're really doing is trying to maximize the surface area of your body to release that heat, and that's why you take that position, so as much heat as possible can dissipate from your body. So you don't really think about it, but that's why we take up those positions. All right, you ate a giant bowl of Captain Crunch this morning for breakfast. Right now, as it's being digested, it is pouring tons of sugar into your blood. Do you know how our body responds to that? This rush of sugar into our blood, yeah? Well, not so much hyper. Yeah, and your body actually does something. It produces a hormone.
like, doesn't it make you get energy, then it makes you tired?
Yeah, this hormone helps regulate your blood sugar. Some people don't produce this hormone on their own, and they have to inject themselves with it. You know what it's called?
Diabetes?
Diabetes is the name of the disease. What's the hormone that regulates blood sugar, Kyle?
Insulin.
Insulin. It's a hormone that helps us regulate our blood sugar. If your friend coughs on you, and you get a virus, a cold virus into your body, and you start to get sick, how does your body respond? Lindsay? How does your body respond when you have a virus? You maybe get tired, you may get a fever. Right? It's your body trying to destroy that virus.
We have one more box.
Yeah, that's all right. There's some differences. That's fun. Your coach makes you run up the hill to Hughes 10 times in practice. Exercising, using up oxygen. How does your body respond to maintain homeostasis? Elise?
Your breathing is heavy?
Yeah, you breathe harder, heavier, faster to get more oxygen into your body.
We don't have that box.
Yeah, don't worry about it then. Just talk.
We have that one.
If a room gets very dark, how do your eyes respond to a dark room? Raise your hand, please. The room is dark, Kat?
They make it like brighter.
By doing what? How do they try to let in more light, Casey?
By adjusting
Your pupils dilate, get larger. What about when you go into a bright light? How does your body respond? Avery? Your pupils constrict or contract and get smaller. You ever look at your eyes in the mirror, if you go from complete darkness, you turn on the light, you can see your pupils constrict to help reduce the amount of light. It's why you wake up in the morning, when you look at your phone and it's like super bright and it's like burning your eyes. It's because your pupils are very large because you've been sleeping all night in darkness. And then when there's this bright light, it's letting too much light in. Or if you've been outside all day, and then you go inside to a dark room, you go in your basement, and then you can't really see very well for a while. Again, that's because your pupils are very, very small when you're outside. You go in that dark room, it takes a little time for them to adjust. So again, those are examples of homeostasis, okay? Keeping balanced conditions. Or how about you hear a loud noise?
Jesus.
That's a stimulus. What's your response, Kate?
Heart attack.
No, you did nothing. You're just no response.
Shock.
Shock. What happens to your, if you get scared, what happens to your heart rate? It increases, right? Your stomach feels, or somebody, you ever have somebody like your brother really scare you? Like they're hiding in the closet waiting to get home from school and then they jump out and like really, really scare you? You get that weird feeling because you're so scared? Again, that's your body responding to a stimulus. So you jumping, you yelling, that's a response to hearing a loud noise. So these are all examples of response to a stimulus, so maintaining homeostasis. Homeostasis is kind of keeping stable conditions inside. Don't worry about this one, okay? And again, your body wants to keep conditions inside of you at about the right level. If conditions go above, your body will bring them back down. If the conditions go below, your body brings them back up. That's what homeostasis is. Reproduction. Now, living things reproduce, we know that. In order for a species to continue, it has to be capable of reproduction. If a species cannot reproduce, what happens to it?
It goes extinct.
It goes extinct. Okay? So reproduction, continuation of the species by creating new organisms. That is a characteristic of all living things. And we're going to talk about reproduction in several units. But reproduction is broken into sort of two main categories: sexual reproduction and asexual reproduction. Okay? And there's some important differences. Some organisms reproduce asexually. Some organisms reproduce sexually. Some organisms can reproduce in either way. So in sexual reproduction, we have two parent organisms which combine their genetic material in some way to produce the offspring. And that results in offspring that are not identical to either parent. They have a combination of traits from each parent. Asexual reproduction is reproduction in which there's only one parent involved. And they basically make a copy of themselves. There's no mixing of genetic information between two different parents. And so the offspring are basically just copies, identical copies of the original. Now, organisms that reproduce sexually: animals, plants. Organisms that reproduce asexually: plants can also reproduce asexually. Bacteria, some single-celled organisms, they can reproduce asexually. So it depends on the type of organism. But all living things must be capable of reproduction. And finally, our last one. All living things are adapted to their surroundings, adapted to conditions where they live, due to the process of evolution. Throughout evolution, species have developed traits that allow them to be successful, allow them to thrive in their environment. For example, what is this? No. No. It's a beaver. See the tail? That's a beaver. What characteristics, what adaptations does a beaver have? Beavers are very well suited to their environment. What kind of characteristics do they have? What have they evolved that makes them so well suited? Emily? What's that? That's where they live. What do they have that helps them be successful in water? Do you know anything about beaver? They build a dam, so how they build their homes. What else? Webbed feet. They developed over time that allow them to swim efficiently through the water. Know anything about their fur? Else? They have oil in their fur that makes it waterproof, so they don't get soaking wet. Okay? So all those, their teeth, or cutting down trees, all these things are adaptations that beavers have that makes them successful. In all species, no matter what species or where they live, they're adapted to their conditions that helps them survive. All right, so those are the characteristics of life. All living things are made of cells. They need energy. They're capable of reproducing. They grow. Okay? They are adapted to their environment. They respond to stimuli. I got it. Let me do this one.